Okay, there we go. All right, so coming up on May 26th, we are hitting the road and we are going live and in living color. Friday Focus is going to be going to Sierra College, and they're going to give us a tour of their makerspace and their applied technologies departments. So I'm super excited to see what they have going on. And these people have been amazing so far about communicating with us and giving us a really cool timeline and layout of what's going to happen. But that's going to be at Sierra College on Friday, May 26th from 10 to noon. And if you decide you want to go, there will be a parking pass provided. So you don't have to pay for parking that day either. So just come join us, hang out, see your counselors live and in living color, and me. I will be there too. So just something to look forward to, and kind of wanted to put the bee in your bonnet moving forward. Okay, so here is the real reason we're here today. All right, so can everybody see my screen? All right, cool. So we're getting into the workplace skills workshop. Here's our agenda. Again, I don't want you guys to feel like this is a ton of information because we may or may not get all the way through it. I don't want to go, just gloss over something that you guys are really interested in. I would rather have you guys just take the time and tell me if it's something that you want to really delve into. Oops. So I plan on talking about finding job opportunities, where you even look, and researching them. Writing a resume, a cover letter, how to apply to a job, accepting and preparing for interviews if you are one of the lucky ones who gets chosen for a job interview, succeeding in an interview, and then working as a minor. What does that look like? So let's hit the ground running here. Okay, so finding job opportunities. So there are going to be a ton of different websites that you can use to find places that are hiring. Things like Google, for example, that's just kind of a general idea, right? But I actually really love Indeed, and I use Indeed. When I did the very first workplace skills workshop back in November, I signed up for an Indeed account, and I just kind of did like a general overview of things that, I thought teenagers might be looking for in my area. And they send me emails like whenever something pops up that I might be interested in. So let's say you're looking for a retail job in Roseville. Bam, bam, bam. Indeed will send you all of the information that you're looking for. So you really don't even have to go out and look for it. All you have to do is just plug in the filtered information that you want, and Indeed will send it to you so that you can actually apply for it. Same thing with ZipRecruiter. They actually function very similarly. Snagajob, I've never actually used myself. However, I use LinkedIn a lot. So these are just some of the ones that I know exist. Indeed, Monster, and LinkedIn are the ones that, and ZipRecruiter are the ones that I know are really, really good. The other ones I'm sure are great too, but because they're the bigger ones, this Indeed and ZipRecruiter, Monster, and LinkedIn, you're going to have a little bit more opportunity there because more employers know to post there. Okay, LinkedIn. This is actually kind of like social media, but for the business world. So this is something, if you're looking to get into business, especially, this is a great way to network. I suggest you create a free account if you're looking to kind of build into those areas, like those industries that you're really interested in, or to make connections with people in the business world. It's kind of a cool tool. All right, researching job opportunities. Okay, there's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself before you even apply to a job. So you need to know what kind of a job you want. Do you want an entry-level position? Do you want something entrepreneurial, something that you're doing for yourself, like mowing lawns for neighbors and things? Or do you want something seasonal that's just, something maybe you work during the holiday seasons or like the busy times of the year? Do you want something part-time? Do you want an internship? Do you want to be an assistant to something? Okay, those are all the very first questions, right? Then you want to find out, obviously, which places are hiring. What skills do you need to have the job? You're going to need a combination of both soft skills and hard skills, which we'll get into in just a minute. But I'm hoping that you guys raise your hand if you've heard of soft skills and hard skills. Okay. All right. So just a general overview, your hard skills are going to be like those things that you need to know, like your education, training, things like that, that are like Like, oh, I know how to use Microsoft Excel. I know how to use Google Classroom. I know how to use da-di-da-di-da. Okay. Soft skills are going to be your people skills. Okay. Your ability to communicate well with people, your ability to problem solve, and we'll get into that. What are companies looking for? It's not something that people really think about on a regular basis, but as you're preparing for a specific job, you kind of want to look at, well, what would these companies be looking for from me? You also want to say or ask yourself, what can you commit to? What does your availability look like? Can you only work 5 or 10 hours a week? Or do you want to work 15 to 20 hours a week? You need to know how many hours you want a week or work a week, and also what days you want to work a week. So if you only want to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's definitely something you need to consider as well. Okay. Because your employers, when they sit you down for an interview, they will ask you that. What is your availability like? So that's definitely something that they will ask you. And then lastly, you want to ask if it's a good fit for you. So for example, if you're applying for a restaurant in the area, but you hate their food, probably not something that you want to apply for because of the fact that you can't make really great recommendations to their customers, right? So make sure that it's a good fit for you too. Okay, hard versus soft skills. So the hard skills are going to be those measurable skills that'll land you a job, okay? So things like, I'm gonna actually start from the bottom up, okay? So education, yeah, if you wanna be a nurse, you need to have a very specific skill set, right? Training. If you want to be a teacher, you need to have training in how to do that. And then experience, that's actually something that's built over time, right? Like the more you're on the job or do something specific, right? Like somebody might ask you in an interview, like, hey, how many years have you been doing this? Or how many months have you been doing this? And being able to say, oh, I've done this for this many years or this many months is experience-based. And that's not necessarily something that an employer is ever going to be looking for with, you know, people who are fresh and new to the job market, right? Like if you've never had a job, they're not going to be looking for experience. They're looking for entry-level positions and people who can fill those shoes with soft skills, right? This is where employers who are looking for entry-level positions are going to largely rely on soft skills. Okay, so your customer service skills, how well you communicate, your adaptability, can you problem solve, time management. If they give you a task, is it going to take you all day to do that one task, or can you be efficient, right? They're going to be looking for good manners, right? This is, again, part of customer service. Ownership, this is huge. This is totally huge. They know that you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Everybody makes mistakes, but being able to say, hey, like, I really blew this, and it was totally my fault, but I would really love to make it right. That's huge. That's totally huge. Okay, listening and organization are also huge. We'll go into organization a little bit more as we delve into these soft skills. So to summate, soft skills are not taught in school, but they are practiced and they are developed. So in this workshop, we will aim to develop your soft skills, okay? So first, let's look at soft skills versus hard skills in the workplace. Okay, a photographer. Unpause or unmute and tell me what hard skills you think a photographer is going to have. What training, what education, what experience? Or you can type it in the chat. That's fine too.
I found out the new CTE photo class.
That's true. Oh my goodness. I forgot to mention that. So this next
year, class next year.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're going to love it. Oh, you're going to love it. So the woman who is teaching it, her name is Robin, and she is amazing. So well, actually, I guess her name is Mrs. Pride to you, but she's amazing. Clark. I'm sorry, Clark. So her last name is Clark. So Mrs. Clark she actually has a successful photography business that she's been running herself for years. And you can actually go to her website and check out some of her photography. So just a little separate plug there, but she's amazing. Like some of her photos, I mean, magazine worthy. They're beautiful. So anyway, a little side note there. Okay. So as a photographer, what hard skills would you need? And I'm sure some people are typing in the chat. So let me just pull that up. Okay. So I don't see it yet. All right. Okay. Hard skills. I'm not letting you guys off the hook.
Training.
What? Training. Yeah.
Training.
Yes. Okay. So training, how do you train as a photographer?
By taking classes.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
practicing over and over.
Exactly. Yeah. What is the very basic thing that you have to know how to do to be a photographer? Like the number one biggest thing. Like, yeah, you can click a button, but what do you need to know how to do?
Yeah, Carson just said camera operation.
Yes, exactly. You need to know how to operate the camera. That's a hard skill, right? You can't just go to shoot a wedding and be like, I'm going to figure this out as I go. It's fine. We'll work on it, right? No, but then what soft skills would you need to have as a photographer? People skills, soft skills. We're just gonna go synonymously, right? Okay. I'm sure people are typing in the chat now. To learn about the basics of a camera. Yes, I see that. Yes, Paige and Liam. That was a hard skill. Okay, soft skills. Yeah.
Carson, I think you had those soft skills at prom. So what soft skills did you have in your business? Doing the DJ?
Leadership skills to guide people, like, for instance, when you're doing some line dances, to get people organized, teach them how to do it, and again, just lead by example.
Exactly. Oh, that was so well said. Yes. So
mic drop.
Sorry. So as a photographer, your soft skills need to include people skills, right? You need to be able to like be comfortable getting people into positions, because as you know, sometimes people who are being photographed or photographed, they don't know what to do with their body. They don't know where to stand. They don't know how to pose. They just want to like put their hands on their hips and be like, they don't know what to do. But as a photographer, you've got to be able to work with these people and tell them what they need to do and make them feel comfortable, right? Problem solve if like they step in a puddle of mud or something, right? Like problem solving. You need, all of these skills definitely for a photographer.
Check the chat, Sharyce. There's some information in the chat too.
Communication and listening, absolutely. Listening. Yeah. So if they have something specific that they want, photographers have to be able to hone in on that, right? Keeping equipment organized. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to show up to a shoot and realize you have the wrong lens.
Having fun too. Like, especially at an event. I've been to weddings or events that have a photographer that just sits there and takes pictures and doesn't interact or have fun, and it's just not as fun. And I have seen amazing photographers that are literally, like you said, Carson, out there dancing and taking snapshots. And it's like, oh my word, can I have your card? I want you at every event.
Yes. So doctors, their hard skills are pretty obvious, right? They have to go to school for a long time. What else? What training? Oh, Isabella's a pretty good photographer. It's sounding like that CTE photography class might be a good fit. Okay, so doctors, yes, years and years of school. They actually have to do a residency too, because they, have to know what department of the hospital that they like working in, and that actually may end up leading to more schooling if they want something really specific that they like. But soft skills, like, have you ever heard of bedside manner? Have you guys ever had a doctor who you cannot stand, who you were like, wow, right? I'm sure everybody has probably had an experience with somebody in the medical world where they were like, if you just were kinder, this would go so much easier, right? And I do think that doctors sometimes miss the boat a little bit on soft skills, because their hard skills have taken so much of a hard line, right, in their life. They've needed those so much more. But soft skills are huge. Okay, and then hairstylists. We don't have to go into all that because I definitely want to get into some of the more meat and potatoes of these things. But obviously you need to know how to cut hair, right? Like, you don't want to have somebody come in and be like, I want to trim, and then cut off 9 inches of their hair, right? But yeah, you definitely, that's a hard skill, right? And then soft skills, you have to be able to talk to people too, because you got somebody sitting in your chair for potentially 30 minutes to, 2 or 3 hours, then you got to be able to make conversation with them and make them feel comfortable. And, some people may not want to talk, and that's okay too. You just have to be comfortable with silence. But that's a skill too. That's actually something I need to work on, is just being okay with silence. Okay. So how do we work on soft skills? So communication, right? Okay, several different kinds of communication, the bullet points down the side. So you got to be able to speak clearly, active listening, right? Nonverbal communication, that's actually a big part of communication. As the speaker, how do you communicate? You have to be aware of some things. And then written skills. So first of all, with active listening, being able to make eye contact with the person who you're talking to or who's talking to you, right? Encouraging them with smiling and laughing and, like being a part of it, like an active member in the conversation rather than just being like, yeah, okay. Confirming or reflecting on what the speaker is saying, right? Like, oh yeah, oh my goodness, me too, right? That's actually huge. Clarifying. So if you're not really sure what they're talking about, so what I hear you saying is la-di-da-di, right? Or did you mean da-da-da? And then don't interrupt. You guys know that. That was something you probably learned back in kindergarten, but believe it or not, it's something that I have to say because people get so wrapped up in conversations sometimes that they're like, oh my gosh, wait, hold on. Yeah. And this, da, 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 and they just want to interject if they're really feeling it sometimes. So sometimes it's just a matter of dialing that back in and making sure that you're being an active listener. So nonverbal communication. What is that? Somebody give me a nonverbal communication right now. Exactly. Yes. So it's basically the things that you're doing, your facial expressions and your gestures, your eye contact, your posture, if you're sitting straight up or if you're hunched over or if you're like this or if you're drooling in your camera with your eyes closed, then I know you're sleeping probably, right? Those are all nonverbal communications, but all some things to be very well aware of as if you are in a role as an employee. Right? I say this to my kids all the time, but my kids wear their emotions largely on their faces. So if somebody says something to them or says something that they're like, oh, that's not good, they'll be like, oh, and I'm like, fix your face, right? So that's something that constantly comes up with nonverbal communication. So it's something I say to myself too, like fix your face, like make sure that you're not giving the wrong impression, right? And then as the speaker, so if you're the one speaking, be aware of your tone, right? Make sure that you're not yelling at the person you're talking to, right? You're just talking to them in a normal tone of voice, right? Your pace, you don't want to talk too quickly or too slowly because you want to make sure that they're, at least engaged. And then projecting your voice clearly and loudly enough, especially if you're presenting, right? If you're presenting something in a setting where it requires you to make sure that your pace and your tone and your clarity are loud and clear and all the things. And then written skills, also super important. So make sure that you can write a professional email. Okay. And I think I do go into this later in the slideshow, but I just want to make sure that I touch on this here. So largely, if you're working for a company, they will give you a company email if they require you to write emails. But if they don't, make sure that you don't have like Happy Kitty 01 exciting as your, at gmail.com as your Gmail address, right? Make sure that it's something a little bit more professional, like your first initial and your last name, or maybe your first name and your last initial, something like that at Gmail, something a little bit more professional, maybe an underscore in there or a dot, but just something that, isn't going to lead people to believe that you aren't mature enough to handle this position, right? Okay. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to skip that one for today. Okay. So soft skill number 2, organization. We are going to actually go into organization. So this would be a fantastic time to grab a piece of paper. Oh, hold on. Let me take off okay. Okay. Grab a piece of paper. I have it. It's there. I promise. Okay. Paper and a pencil. Okay. Because we are actually going to dive into a mind map in just a minute, okay? But first of all, keep information out of your brain so that you don't forget things, okay? Sometimes when life gets a little bit overwhelming, it's really nice for me to I have a paper calendar where all of my work stuff is. I have a calendar on my phone for all of my family stuff and all the things I have to do and be and all the things. But if you're relying on your brain to store all that information, it's so easy. What did you say, Lucas?
Sorry, I accidentally unmuted.
Oh, that's okay. I thought you were throwing something else out there. But yeah, it's so much easier to get things out of your brain and make sure that they're stored in a different place, right? Because then you can move on to filling your brain with other things. And trust me, I know how difficult it is being a student. So, you know, with all of the deadlines and everything, if you have it written down somewhere or organized, it's really nice. Label things. I actually am terrible at this, but it's on my goals list. It is, I promise. But this way, you know what things go and what they're used for. So, or where things go and what they're used for. So, for example, like I have a cords. I have a cords problem in my house. And the problem is they just kind of get hodgepodged into a drawer, like a junk drawer. And then I never know what they go to ever again. So if you were to put them in Ziploc bags and actually label them, then you know what they're for, right? Everything has a place. Make sure that you get into the habit of putting things where they belong, especially if you were to get a job, because it's really nice to be able to know where things go and then have them there in case you need them as an employee, as well as if another person goes to find them and they're where they're supposed to be. So declutter, having a space that you feel organized in. It allows you to work on other things, right? Kind of like that organizational piece of getting things out of your brain. Be early. So my husband is a fireman and he always says, if you're on time, you're late. And it's taken me forever to get this through my brain. But it's one of those things where, you know, if you wake up early and you do the things the night before that you know you need to do or that you can do, it sets you up for success so much better in the morning. For example, how many of you drive? Yeah? Okay. This is my problem and learn from my mistakes. Okay. I tend to let my gas in my car run down to like below E to where I'm like practically pushing it into the gas station, but by the time I go to fill up again. So if you know you have something important to do the next day, an interview, you have to work, it's so much better if you can go get the gas the night before so that it takes it off of your plate the next morning and it's one less thing you have to do. Okay. Please learn from my mistakes in that regard. And then always have a backup ready to go. So again, like photographers, for example, okay? If you are shooting a wedding and your battery dies and you don't have a backup battery, then I guess you're done taking pictures of the wedding, right? That's horrible. I can't even imagine how that would feel. But have a backup, okay? 2 in the hand. Oh no, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. It was a quote that I had found about that. And so, you know, it's like basically saying always have an extra ready. And if it's something that would cause an interruption, if your life ran out, have an extra. Okay, what's next? Okay, let's make a mind map. Okay, I'm so excited. All right, everybody have that paper? Okay, so I'm just gonna go through a couple of examples of mind maps first, okay? So a mind map is all about you, okay? This is just a way for you to organize parts of your life, okay? There's different ways to do it. Everybody likes things clean and neat or in a different way, right? Everybody organizes their brain, their processes in different ways, and that's fabulous. So this would be one way where your subcategories are things that you have to handle in your life, right? Like things like your schoolwork, or your education, you know, I guess those go together. So if you have hobbies, right? Like let's say Carson and music, right? I'm sorry, I'm throwing you under the bus there, but that would be like a little bubble, like a separate little bubble, right? Like a subcategory. So this is just an example. And then from there, you're using the same color in offshoots to kind of organize information, right? So that's one way to do it. This is another way, okay? So again, you are the center, and then all of your offshoots could be one color, and then all of your subcategories could be different colors, if that makes sense. So some things to keep in mind. These were just some basic categories, okay? Health, education, family, friends, hobbies, okay? And I kind of want to show you mine too, because I do tend to err on the side of technology, at least with this, just because it feels very clean to me. But I have 6 subcategories. And then from there, I have like subcategories, right? Like things that I almost have to handle, whether it's weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever it is, things that I am responsible for. Okay. So I'm responsible for keeping track of my family. I'm responsible for making sure that I maintain those friendships. I'm responsible for work. I am responsible for keeping my house clean. I am responsible for my own personal development. How I grow as a human being, and then my health. And then when you're looking at those subcategories, look at how you make sure that those things are met, right? So my health, for example, I have to make sure that I make time to exercise. I have to make sure that I make time to go to the dentist. I have to make sure that I'm walking and moving, and because I do a lot of sitting in my job, right? Same thing with personal development. I would love to work on my master's degree. I would love to work on setting really healthy goals for myself. And I would really love to read more books. I would love to make time to read more, but this is just my mind map. Okay. I'm going to leave this up here. If there's a different one you want to revisit, we can do that. But I want you to take maybe 3 to 5 minutes at least to create your subcategories. You don't necessarily have to really delve into the other parts unless you you have like those things that just immediately come to your brain and they're done in like 2 minutes. But think about this. Okay. If you need input, I'm here to help. But I just kind of want you to organize your life and the things that you have to do and you're responsible for. Also, if you want to pull up a separate tab and make a pretty one on the computer, I'm okay with that too. I'm sure right about now, you guys are probably realizing how much you're responsible for, right? Maintaining family relationships, friendships, schoolwork, hobbies, and you want to add a different category, right? I think the intention is to add a work category for you guys too. So there's just a lot, right? How are we doing so far? Okay. All right, I'll give you guys another couple minutes. Okay, guys. Oops, I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds. And then if anybody has anything that they want to add to this, thoughts, I would love to hear.
You know, Reese, this is really making me kind of understand why some areas of my life are kind of neglected, because I have so much emphasis on some of the other areas in my life. So
that's powerful. You're right. You are so right. Anybody else have observations or anything surprising come up in this that you were like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was going to actually have to put that as a subcategory? Okay. Well, I am excited to see your mind maps. I'm not going to ask you to share them with me, but if anything comes up towards the end, like that you've added along the way or that you want to share, let me know. Okay. I think this is really valuable in, like Mrs. Burr said, evaluating where your priorities are and noticing about yourself where you invest the most amount of time. Okay. And organizing that amount of time in other areas of your life, right? Making sure that all of the things are covered. Okay, so writing a resume. All right, here we go. I thought this was so funny. Okay, excuse me for 1 second. My dog needs to go outside. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay, who can name this character? Who can name the actor first?
Oh, can anybody name the actor? I would be shocked.
How about they might know him more for Pulp Fiction than for what I'm thinking of him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, it's John Travolta, guys, just in case you were wondering. All right.
I couldn't type it fast enough.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You know what? I have no idea what happened to my chat thing, but it went away and I don't know how to get it back. So we're just going to go with it. Okay. So there are so many different templates online available, even in Microsoft Word. If you wanted a resume template that will just kind of lay out and organize for you what you, what like the pieces and parts that need to go into your resume. And then all you do is just insert your information, but you kind of have to know what information you want to insert, right? So this is just generally how a resume would look. This is a little bit boring as far as I'm concerned, so don't necessarily use this particular template, but at the same time, it is really nice in the sense that it's laid out very clearly. So your name obviously goes to the top. This would be all of your contact information, okay? You see your career objective, and that's just a statement of basically why you think you want to work for this company. Okay, so let's say you are applying for a job as a retail salesperson at JCPenney. Okay, well, then you might want to say something about, you know, I think I would love to work with customers and help them find, you know, the right fit for clothing and for shoes and help them put outfits together and all of the things, right? I mean, that's probably not a great example, but education, your employers are going to want to know what your education looks like. So if you would obviously mention Sequoia Grove, right? Whether you're Feather River or Lakeville or Clarksville or Lakeview or Clarksville. Those are things that you would want to mention, right? And you would want to actually insert your projected graduation year. So if you intend to graduate in 2025, that's what you would put, okay? Work experience. So if you don't have any, that's okay. Here's what I want you to think about. Have you volunteered at church? Okay, maybe in like the little kids' classrooms. Have you babysat? Have you done yard work for people before? Have you done any sort of volunteering? Think about things that you have done and where you've invested your time over the years. And likely you will come to the conclusion that you actually do have work experience. While you may not have a specific job, you have done some things. I'm sure you have. And if you need help problem solving or thinking about things that you've done in the past, I can help you get there. Skills. So if you know how to work, again, Google, like Google Suite, if you know all things Google, maybe put that on your resume. If you know how to code, okay, things that are relevant for the job that you are applying for are probably what you want to put under skills. Okay, so if you're applying for a job again, let's go with retail, right? You may want to say something like, you're, pretty good with like, what would be skills relevant to a retail job? Help me out, guys.
Cash management.
There we go. This is where your soft skills come in, right? Communication, problem solving, people skills, right? And then volunteering and extracurricular activities. A lot of times this and your work experience can be put together just into one instead of having two different ones, unless maybe you have had a job and you've also done some volunteering or extracurriculars as well, right? So extracurriculars, you might say something like, if you've been on a high-level sports team, or you've been in competitive baseball your last, 3 years of your life. Any awards that you've gotten over the years, or certifications, or if you attended a workshop or a seminar, that would go here as well. Okay.
And of a sports team is leadership. So make sure you would put that down for
So true. Okay. What do we think about this resume? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs meh. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's the one thing, well, two actually, that I would caution you about with this resume. So first of all, having a picture of yourself can actually be a negative. You don't want to do that. Okay. So make sure you don't include a picture of yourself. As much as you think you are handsome or beautiful, and I'm sure your employer or employees or employers will think the same, you probably don't need to add a picture of yourself. You're wanting to sell what you've done, not necessarily what you look like, right? And then these lovely little, bubbles and things around the outside are actually kind of unnecessary, because you don't necessarily want to add additional interest to your resume. You just want it to kind of list the information. So while these are fantastic and I'm okay with the color, these little bubbly things are, just kind of an unnecessary little piece. Okay. Tips and tricks. So you definitely want to make sure that you're editing for spelling errors. Okay. Use Grammarly, put your resume up into Grammarly, and it will actually suggest all of those edits for you without you needing to proofread everything. Okay. Keep it simple and concise. There's no reason that you need to have paragraphs long information on, your work experience. You're basically just bullet pointing. Okay. Make sure your email address is professional. Okay. We already talked about this. Especially since your email address will actually be how the employer contacts you or reaches out to you, aside from maybe a phone, right? Maybe they won't contact you by phone. Maybe they will email you and ask for an interview. So on your resume, you definitely want to have a professional email address. Make a list of your academic, sports, and extracurricular awards or activities. So if you've been on honor roll, if you were a state cup champion, if you were an NHS member, if you have a CPR or a babysitting certificate, those are all things that you want to make sure you add. If you volunteered, dog walking, actually dog walking is a thing. Not necessarily in my neighborhood, but definitely like the Roseville area. I know kids on my roster who actually walk dogs in their neighborhood, and they're actually doing it entrepreneurially and earning money doing it, which is cool. Yard work for a neighbor, which I already mentioned. Okay. Brainstorming. I'm actually going to even lessen this time to like 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. Because we do still have information to get through. But I just kind of want you to list out, things from your mind map. Okay. Look at your mind map and then look at qualities about yourself, education, extracurricular and volunteering, skills, awards, certificates, workshops, seminars, anything like that. Just start making a list on a separate piece of paper, okay, or on the back of your mind map. This will kind of, if you don't already have a resume, this will kind of just get the juices flowing as far as what you need to include. Does everybody have at least one or two things written down? Okay. I'm going to give you probably another 30 seconds. And then I want to make sure, because I'm like, I'm down to 13 minutes. Okay, awesome. All right, now that I think we've hopefully had a little bit of time to at least get, your mind thinking about things that you might want to add to your resume. I would also like to go over very quickly, because this is actually a big one. As far as long is concerned, but writing a cover letter. Okay, prepare yourselves. All right. So where your resume is a tool used to briefly sum up your skills, your cover letter is where you're going to show a little bit more of your personality. Okay. So each job that you apply to, I know nobody's going to want to hear this, but you got to hear it anyways. Each job that you apply to, you should be tweaking your cover letter and your resume to that organization. Okay. So that means doing a little bit of research about the organization that you're applying to, what their mottos are, what their the things that they value in their organization are, and then including those things in your cover letter. Okay. This is your first introduction to the hiring manager. So you want to make sure that you are addressing the letter to the hiring manager or to the person who's doing the hiring. And you want to make it memorable. That means while you want to use examples of what to include as your guide to building and creating your cover letter, you do not want to simply use a template. Okay. So it's so easy to just Google. I mean, like Google AI is a real thing these days, and I never thought I'd see the day, but here we are talking about Google AI. But you want to make sure that you don't use a template for your cover letter, because it's a great opportunity to really show who you are. And this is your very first impression of the person who wants to potentially hire you for a job. So make sure that you are really showcasing yourself to the best of your abilities, while also including pieces of their company. Okay. This is just an example of a big boo-boo, right? Remember I talked about how you don't want to, you want to tweak your cover letter and your resume for each of the jobs that you're applying for. And here's why. You don't want to hand in a resume for Subway with a cover letter that's for KFC. Just an example. Okay, so this kind of gives you a breakdown. And again, I'm just going to kind of glance over this part because it's kind of meaty. So it should include an introductory paragraph, a body paragraph, at least one, maybe two, and then closing, okay, with a call to action as part of your closing statement, okay, followed by your name. And it's okay if these are relatively short, because again, you may not have 20 years of work experience, and that's okay. Okay, so this would just be an example. So I don't want you to feel like this is totally overwhelming, right? We're not writing a full-blown essay here. But you do want to have just a one-page, summary of who you are. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of like glance through this stuff. All right, tips and tricks. Make sure you address your cover letter to the hiring manager, like I had talked about. It's okay to mention things about yourself that have taught you lessons, but may not pertain to the job. Okay, that shows the company that you are well-rounded and have multiple interests. For example, mentioning that you have played on a competitive soccer team for the last 4 years would show an employer that you are a team player and you know how to work hard. Make sure it's not just all about you, and include things about their company as well, right? You're trying to, speak to this company as well. So use a professional format and proofread. We already talked about Grammarly. Don't just go over all the things that you mentioned in your resume. Okay, make it just a spice different. Don't mention lack of experience. Focus on what you can bring to the table. So don't say, oh, well, I've never done, retail before, and I've never, done customer service before. Don't focus on the things that you can't do. Focus on what you can do and what you do bring to the table. And honesty is the best policy. And then if you really aren't sure what you want to apply for as far as jobs are concerned, this is a fantastic little career exploration test that'll just kind of help you hone in on the things that you might be good at. Okay, applying to a job. All right, do research on the company. About us, there is actually in Indeed.com, and I know in a few of the other job search engines that we talked about, they have an About Us page to kind of like get to know the company. Read and reread the job description to know what they're going to be asking you to do if in fact you do get the job. Remember to always upload a copy of your resume and cover letter, even if it's not mandatory. So they might just ask you to upload the application. And I know that's a little bit redundant because they do ask you to do that on Indeed, is just fill out the job application online, but then always add a resume and a cover letter. It's a nice little touch and it just shows that additional step that you've taken. Okay. And then before you submit your cover letter, tweak it to the organization that you're applying for. Okay. Accepting and preparing for an interview. So you want to dress nicely, right? So let's say they call you. Hi, I would like to offer you a job interview. And you say, yes, please. And thank you. When can I be there? Right? So you don't want to show up in your Converse shoes that have probably been through, the mud and all of the things, right? You definitely want to dress nicely and look the part, right? Be well-groomed and polite. You want to be early. We talked about that at the beginning. Shake hands with your interviewer, smile, and make sure you make eye contact with them. And look at potential interview questions and practice beforehand with a family member or friend. And online, they have a plethora of different questions that they might ask you in an interview, okay? Have questions ready for your interviewer about the organization. So if they always, at the end of an interview, they'll say, do you have questions for me? Don't say, nope, I think I'm good. Make sure you actually have a question for them, okay? So for example, you might ask how many customers they see on average per day if you were applying for a job at Starbucks, okay? Or if you're feeling confident, you can ask what the next step is in the hiring process. They're okay with that. They're totally okay with that. They love that you're actively engaged if you're asking questions, okay? It shows interest. And then bring a small notebook and a pencil to jot anything down. So anything like your interviewer's name, in case like you are so nervous that day that you're like, wait, what did she say her name was? Okay, jot it down real quick. That way, you know you have it and can refer back to it. And then also, it gives you an opportunity at the end to write a little handwritten note and send it to the person who is your interviewer and just say, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. People love that. They totally appreciate it. Okay. What are interviewers looking for? They're looking for willingness to learn, enthusiasm for the job, motivation and hard work, your interest for their business and their business's success, positive energy, okay, and fresh ideas. So if you have fresh ideas that you want to bring to the table, it's a fantastic time to do that in an interview. Maybe not like, oh, I have a great, fantastic idea of ways that you should restructure your company. Maybe not that kind of fresh ideas, but fresh ideas like, hey, you know what? I'm really excited to jump in and help out here and maybe even improve the efficiency of this, burger wrapping process before you put it into the bags to take to the customers. I don't know. Okay. Sample interview questions. I've only listed about 9 here, but this is really truly the meat and potatoes of the list that you're going to see as an interviewee. Okay. So they're going to ask you to tell us about yourself. That you guys see me do that when I interview people in career conversations, right? That's usually the very first question that I ask people. Hey, tell us about yourself. They want to know about you. They want to know who you are. And usually people give so much information about themselves in these moments that interviewers have a really good idea of who you are and what you're all about in just that first question. So then they're going to ask you usually any number of these other questions as well. And like I said, lastly, they'll ask you if you have any questions for them. Make sure, again, that you have a question at the ready. Okay, succeeding in an interview. Okay, I don't think I shared my sound. So let me stop share for just 1 minute. Oh, we have 3 minutes. Actually, you know what? This would be a fantastic note to end on because it's really funny video. But this is just basically like bad job interview examples. Okay. Things you don't want to do in a job interview. And I might just cut it off with like 1 minute to go. Okay.
There's no jobs for manager. It's just for counter.
Good. I'm looking for the least possible amount of responsibility.
Mr. Huff, Mr. Jenner is ready for your interview.
Actually, we'll be interviewing as a team.
We're all in this together, and I wanted to put across the general idea rather than the details. Like, people get all hung up on details. Like, which school did I go to? How many O grades did I get? Could be like 6, could be none. It's not important. What is important is that I am, yes?
Do you have any special skills?
Oh, yes. I do. I do voices.
What are your skills, girls?
Oh, we can dance. You mean like dancing? We're really good dancers.
Yes! We've come to this planet looking for intelligent life. Oops, we made a mistake.
We're happy to be in America. Don't ask for a green card.
I want you in the worst way.
Mr. Matsuhisu.
Matsumoto.
Moto.
Martha, can I call you Martha?
No, you may not.
Okay. Human resources lady.
It's Pam.
I'm sorry. Well, Pan.
No, my name is Pam.
Are you saying Pan or Pam?
I'm saying Pam. Yeah, I'm sorry. Who's this gentleman sitting behind you?
Hello, Ms. Lady. I have fast food experience.
Yeah, like 20 years ago.
Do you have any experience?
No, sir, I have no experience, but I'm a big fan of money. I like it. I use it. I have a little. I keep it in a jar on top of my refrigerator. I'd like to put more in that jar. That's where you come in.
We're not generally comfortable in an office setting, I would say.
I get cooped up. Not so task-oriented. Not a workhorse.
I also get headaches from computers, so I can't be around them for too long.
I take stuff. If you're looking for a Clydesdale, I'm probably not your man.
We're slow learners, and we're not particularly good listeners. That'll be a huge problem.
So we'll end on that note. So
There's no jobs for manager. It's just for counter.
Good.
No. Okay, I'm trying to go to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so aside from dressing nicely, how you carry yourself matters, and we will end on that note. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And before you go, let me share these slides with you so that the things that I didn't end up getting to, oh shoot, hang on, let me just stop recording first.